Hi everybody, this is actually my second take of doing this video because I accidentally hit the wrong button and I wasn't recording, and I don't know how far I got into it without realizing I didn't record. So we're doing this again. All right, so I'm here to talk about our multi-serving tea pitchers and steepers that we have available, or at least ones I have available right now. There's one I'm still waiting to get. So the first one here, this one's our Prism Teapot. This is one of the newer ones. This one came out over the summer. It's probably one of my favorite as far as being able to do a hot steep, just because this is the only one of our steepers that you can put on direct heat. I have a gas stove, so this I put directly, I fill it with water, put it directly on the flames, and I've used it a bunch of times, and it holds well. It hasn't cracked or anything, and it's pretty awesome. I like that just because it skips the step of boiling water and putting it into a steeper and stuff. But not that that's a huge deal, but I just like the convenience of that. The only bad thing is that the glass also does get hot itself, so you do have to use an oven mitt on there. The other thing that's cool is the infuser. So this is one of the finest infuser, meaning that the holes are really tiny on here. Almost all of our infusers, so each of our infusers, you can't use all the teas in every infuser with every infuser. So say this one's from the Cutie Pot. This one is, the holes are a little bit larger. So you can pretty much steep any tea in this one except for rooibos. And that's just because rooibos is a finer tea, almost like the consistency of like a spice. Just think of it like that it's almost powdery, not that fine, but it's fine enough that if I were to put it in any other steeper, it would just seep right through the holes, and then you'd have tea in your water. This one actually, the holes are small enough that the rooibos tea won't seep through it, so that's pretty cool. And the other one, as I mentioned, is our Cutie Pot. This is probably the best-selling pot multi-serving steeper that we have. This one I primarily use to do cold steep, which I will talk about in a minute after I go through all the other infuser or steepers. And like I said, this one comes with its own steeper too. The hole is a little bit bigger than the Prism Pot, so you can pretty much steep any of the teas in here except for the rooibos. Our Oolong Tea, the green teas, black, green, since they have big full leaves, you can steep those easily in there. And this one, it doesn't look as big as you would think it is, but it is. It's pretty good, big. This one is 58 fluid ounces, so it's actually bigger than the Prism. The Prism's 44 fluid ounces, but that's still decent size for those two. This one, even though it's glass, you cannot put this on direct heat, so do not put this on direct heat. This part's also made of plastic, so you also don't want to put that on direct heat. This one is our perfect tea pitcher. So this one, what's cool about this is that there's a strainer on the lid. This one doesn't have a steeper itself. So the idea is that you would put the tea and it would sit at the bottom here. You would pour whatever you want, whether it's loose leaf tea or fruit teas or whatever. And when you're ready to serve, you would pour it. This one particularly is used to make sangrias. So I typically will use this one to put the fruit teas in, and I'll cold steep it. So as I mentioned before in other videos, whenever you're gonna hot steep certain teas, you don't wanna oversteep them because then you'll end up with bitter tea. That's not true with cold steeping tea. So cold steeping is when I don't heat the water, I put cold water into my steeper and I let it mingle and sit itself. I put it in the fridge and I can let that steep overnight. I can let that steep for 24 hours and it won't oversteep it, which makes this one a perfect one to do cold steeps and for making sangrias. Because what I'll do before, we just had a barbecue last weekend and I made a sangria out of our juicy blackberry sangria tea, which we do sell tea specifically for cocktails and sangrias. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to put alcohol in them, but that's what they're designed for. They also make great iced teas. So I put the fruit tea in the bottom here. I cut up some fruit, some apples, grapes, oranges, and threw my water in here, and then put a little of a bottle of wine. This actually can hold 2 bottles of wine, but I was only able to get one because I had the water and all the other fruit pieces in here. and the juicy blackberry at the bottom, which also has its own pieces of fruit. And I just let that mingle for 24 hours and served it the next day, and it was perfect. And it was easy because my guests could pour without worrying about getting the tea leaves in their drink, because we have this strainer on here. So that's pretty cool. Or you can also use, if you don't want to cold steep and you say you want to hot steep it, then I personally would use our steeping sacks, which are essentially kind of like tea bags. So you would fill the loose leaf in here, and then I would put it in hot water. Okay, let it hang on the side there, and then let it steep that way. You could also cold steep this way if you would like. Totally up to you. So this one I would say I probably use this one most infrequently, because like I said, I mostly use it to make sangrias or some sort of cocktail mix for people. But it's still a really good one. Talked about the Cutie Pot. And then the last one I have is our iced tea infusion jug. And as you can see, I already had some stuff steeping in here, and my husband's already attacked it. So I made this yesterday. I cold steeped this. I use this one a lot to make iced tea for him. You can see the condensation. So what I did, and it has this very large infuser, which I filled up with fruit tea, filled that up with cold water, and I stuck that in the fridge and let that sit overnight, or at least I tried to, and now it's pretty much disappeared. But this one, between this one and the Cutie Pot, usually when this one's steeping and he's working on that one, then I'll take the Cutie Pot, make another pot of iced tea. So he always has them. He's a huge iced tea drinker. He actually could probably drink this whole thing at dinner by himself. He actually poured the Cutie Pot, and because he uses really large cups, he poured the entire contents of the Cutie Pot into his cup and had that for dinner. So I always have one of these in the fridge cold steeping. You can also hot steep with this one. So I could have easily filled the infuser and boiled up some water and filled it up here, hot steep it, take this out and refill the rest with either ice or cold water, stuck it in the fridge until it chilled. But this one's pretty cool, very durable. Plastic, again, can't put this one on direct heat, but you can put hot water in here and it won't hurt it. So put that one to the side there. So now I'm going to make some iced tea right now. So I'm going to use the Prism Pot. And like I said, normally I would fill this with water and put it directly on my stove, but we're not doing that today because I'm not in my kitchen, sitting in my dining room. Also, it's really hot today, and I don't really feel like putting heat on in my kitchen because it gets very hot. So I generally don't use my stove or oven on hot days. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna mix one of our newer teas. This one's a lemon gelato. This one just came out last season, and I had a feeling my husband was gonna like this because he really likes lemon and lemongrass, and this one has a very strong flavor of that. And I have this one in a tin because I generally put the ones that I use regularly, especially ones to make iced tea, in the tins, and I keep them on my tea bar so I have easy access to it. Because I know I'm going to use it really quickly. Not to say that I don't use all the other teas that I have quickly or on a regular basis, but these I know I'm always going to go for them because that's something that I'm going to use almost every single day. There is a ton of teas that we have that I love, that I would love to drink them every single day, but there's just too many of them. So, all right, let me scoop this out here. I'm going to get a nice, and this one's an Oolong Tea, and let me show you here just the beautiful pieces we've gotten here. So there's a piece of lemon right there. Awesome. I'm gonna throw that in there, and then look at, never fails. I do that every single time. Those awesome pieces. We've got full tea leaves in here. It smells amazing, and we got actual fruit pieces. It smells so good. It smells so good. Let me pick up these pieces I dropped. Okay. Then I'm gonna do a little bit more. So as I mentioned in other videos I've done, most of our teas you can steep more than one time. Our oolongs you can steep 3 times. So technically after I steep this pitcher of tea, I can save this infuser and steep it 2 more times. So I'll get triple the amount of servings, and it's still gonna be a full amount of tea that we got in there. Nothing's gonna be watered down or anything. All right, so I've got that. This on, and I'm gonna get my hot water. I'm gonna put this up just so it's not super hot when I go to take it out. Pour my water directly in here. And I hope yeah, I brewed enough water to make sure I cover all of it. Yeah, it's covered pretty good. Alrighty, so we've got that going. Ooh, hot. So now I'm gonna set my timer right here. That does not take too long, about 3 minutes. Okay, and let me put this to the side for now so we can talk about other things. I'll put that to the side. One thing I want to talk about is our perfect tea timer. If I haven't before, it's pretty cool. So instead of having numbers on here, we have all the types of teas that we had. So like I said earlier, each tea you want to infuse for a certain amount of time. You don't want to over steep it because you will end up with bitter tea. That's especially true for the ones that take a shorter amount of time, like the black tea and the green tea. If you've ever had really bitter tea that didn't taste well, it likely had been steeped for too long. So that one's pretty neat. And then it also has a magnet on the back so you can stick that on your fridge. So that's pretty cool. That side. And I'm gonna show you a bag of, this is the Juicy Blackberry Sangria. This is the one that my husband drank already that I showed you. So, and I really hate that. I understand I'm doing the opposite of a video and things are gonna come up opposite and backwards, but it drives me nuts that I can't, that y'all have to read this stuff that way. Okay, so on each bag of tea, it's going to tell you, and all the serving sizes and the instructions are for 1 cup of tea. So this is a fruit tea. So fruit tea, you're generally going to do a little bit more than a teaspoon, usually a teaspoon and a half. I usually do 2 teaspoons because I like it a little bit stronger. And then it tells you how long you're going to steep the tea for. So fruit tea is 4 to 5 minutes. But again, if you cold steep this, you don't have to worry about over steeping it. And then it tells you how many times you can brew it. So our fruit teas, our herbal teas, and our black teas are the only ones you actually cannot steep more than 1 time. However, I have been known to try re-steeping some of the fruit tea because there's no black tea in it, there's no green tea, so that's not actually going to get bitter. I do try, if I feel that it's strong enough or I put enough, then I'll try another steep just to get a little bit more flavor. It may not be as strong, but I still get another cup of tea out of it, which is pretty cool. That there. Oh, and I forgot to mention the spoon I use. This one is our 1 pot of tea spoon. So this measures out 1 serving of a pot of tea. So say if I was using the Cutie Pot, this would equate to putting 1 of this and filling it up. I usually do a little bit more. I always do a little bit more just because we prefer things a little bit stronger. There's also a perfect cup of teaspoon, a matcha teaspoon, and then 1 for our boosters. So if you don't have a spoon, it's totally fine. Like I said, on the bags, it tells you how much to serve, and usually 1 serving, or the teaspoon is usually a teaspoon. It's about the size of a teaspoon, a little bit more, but good. Okay, timer went off. So I'm gonna take this out here. So what I do with the Prism infuser, because there's still water stuck in the steeper and I don't want to put it aside because a lot of it will drip out. So I actually take it and I turn it on its side and I just let that drain. I'll leave it there and you can see the water dripping down. And so leave that maybe like 10 minutes. Then I'll put this either into another pitcher, fill it with ice, or I'll stick it directly into the fridge so that can cool, and then I'll re-steep this again to make more servings. So, and don't be alarmed by the light color of this. Oolong is one of the lighter teas, so the coloring is going to be a little bit lighter, like a white tea. Your darker teas are going to be your pu'er, your black teas. Those are pretty dark. Green is about in the middle, and your fruit teas generally are dark depending on what kind of fruit tea you have and what's in it. I'm going to put that to the side right there. So the next thing I'm gonna do here, so this one I'm actually just gonna cold steep. This one, I'm gonna use the Juicy Blackberry Sangria. So I'm using all the teas that my husband really likes because like I said, he's the big iced tea drinker. I prefer my teas to be hot, but he's a big iced tea drinker, so I make a lot of the iced teas for him. I'm also more of a latte drinker myself, but I like just a simple cup of untouched tea. Like I'll drink my one of my favorite teas is the butterscotch chai, or I'm thinking of cookie dough, which is another one. I will just drink that straight just how it is because I like it so much. So again, all these awesome fruit pieces in here. It's beautiful. It smells so good. So in here we've got pieces of apple, papaya, mango, currants, blueberry, hibiscus, lemongrass, which is probably why my husband likes this again. He loves lemongrass, blackberry, blueberry pea, butterfly blue pea flower. So all of our stuff, there's nothing artificial in here. No additives, there's no added sugar unless it says so. The loose leaf teas all generally do not have any added sugar. If you notice with this bag of tea, it's a fruit tea, it does have 5 calories per serving, and that all equates for the fruit teas that are in, or the fruit pieces that are in here, because fruit naturally has sugar in it. So there is going to be traces of sugar in our fruit teas. Still less than getting a tablespoon of sugar in your iced tea or something like that. But everything else is sugar-free unless it says otherwise. And usually those are like our hot chocolate mixes are going to have sugar in them. Some of the matchas, the sweet matchas will. Some of them don't. Some of them are sweetened by stevia, so they've got 0 calories in them, which is pretty awesome. But my matcha stuff is going to be another time, another video. So here, I'm actually going to stop here because I was planning on cold steeping this, so I'm not in my kitchen. I'm not going to go run in my kitchen right now. It's leaving you guys hanging. But as you saw, I put my tea leaves in here, the fruit tea, in the steeper here. What I'm going to do is just fill this up completely with water, and I'm going to stick this in the fridge. So whenever my husband gets home, whichever one he chooses to have is the one he's going to have to drink, and he'll still have a backup. So, which is why I like having multiple pitchers in the house, because when one's being used or getting cleaned or whatever, I have a backup. I always have a backup. So, all right, so those are the pot large steepers that I have. Check out my other videos. I'm going to talk about making a perfect cup of tea. I go over the single serving infusers that we have, matcha, and I also do a little bit on making kombucha, because we do sell kombucha kits as well. And then in the future, I would like to do more on our Heal Thyself line, specifically our medicinal teas and the new boosters. So, all right, thank you for sticking with me. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll put my info out, and be sure to join, if you're on Facebook, join my Facebook group, because I do monthly giveaways all the time, and I have pretty awesome offers. So, all right, y'all, take care. Have a good day. Bye.